Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a semi-new podcast in which we discuss Denver sporting news. We break down the games and we talk about what's to come for the teams we love, all through the lens of a bettor. This is the Denver Dollar, and I'm your host, Daniel Shalansky. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now, the Nuggets have a matchup tonight against the 15-7 Chicago Bulls. In Chicago, the Nuggets are 18-15 on the season. So, in years past, this might seem like a cakewalk of a matchup, but it is actually a little bit more difficult than it seems on paper due to the fact that the Bulls are playing pretty well this season at 15-17. Sure, they are in the East where things are not as difficult, but the Bulls are playing, above expectations for the season, especially Zach Levine, who has been a monster. He's one of the top players in fantasy due to the numbers that he produces night in and night out. Kobe White looks really good as well. Outside of that, they don't really have much on their team, especially with the injuries of Lauri Markkanen, and mostly just Lauri Markkanen at the time being. Wendell Carter Jr. has been nice at times this season, but he got absolutely sunned by DeAndre Ayton in their last matchup against the Suns, and Nikola Jokic is sure to do the same against Wendell Carter Jr. Now, kind of a fun note, and I don't really know if this will affect the gameplay at all, but the longest gap in between any teams playing in the NBA has been between the Nuggets and the Bulls. They have not played each other in 774 days. That was January 17th of 2019. The reason being was that they played their both of their series games pretty early in the season in the 2018-2019 season. And then for the 2019-2020 season, which was last season, they had both of their games canceled due to COVID when the season got postponed. So they didn't play at all last year, and the most recent game was kind of in the front half of the beginning of, 2 seasons ago. So it's been 774 days since they've played each other. I'm sure that won't necessarily affect the outcomes. Both teams are fairly different since then. It's just funny to note because that's the first time I've ever seen such a large gap in between the last times any teams have played each other. Injuries for the Nuggets: they have two starters that are missing, and then two very important role players that are also missing. Gary Harris is out again with his thigh injury. Michael Green is out again with his shoulder injury, and Paul Millsap is out again with his knee injury. RJ Hampton is out due to health and safety protocols. So, with those four important rotation guys being absent, expect, a lot more on the load of Michael Porter Jr.'s shoulders, and expect a lot more minutes from him. Same with Monte Morris. He's been absent from the betting card as of late because he is truly a six-man who's only getting a little bit more than 20 minutes a game. But he has been starting with the absence of Gary Harris. So he is starting. The Nuggets starting lineup will look like Jamal Murray at the 1, Monte Morris at the 2. Probably switch those two, but those are the two guards. Will Barton playing the wing, Michael Porter Jr. at forward, and Nikola Jokic rounding it out at center. But again, expect a lot more Facu minutes, expect some more Zeke Naji minutes. Hopefully we don't see too much Hartenstein in this game. That's about it. On the Bulls side of the ball, Chandler Hutchinson is out with a leg contusion, and Lauri Markkanen is out with a shoulder injury, and Otto Porter Jr. is out with a foot injury. So now Chandler Hutchinson was the only player that was playing as of late. The other two dudes have been out for some time, and we've known that they're out. The only really significant one this season so far has been Lauri Markkanen. So hopefully he gets back for his own sake, but for the Nuggets' sake, he is arguably their best player outside of Zach Levine. So it does bode well for the Nuggets. Let's dive into some numbers. First, we're going to talk about the popular ones, such as Moneyline, the spread, the over-under, and then we'll discuss individual player props, and we'll finish the show with our patented tip-off analysis. Make sure you stick around for that. Looking at the Moneyline, the Nuggets are big favorites in this game. They're locked in at minus 190, whereas the Bulls are locked in at plus 160. The Nuggets are 4.5 point favorites in this game. If you take the spread, they are locked in at minus 115, and the Bulls are locked in at minus 107. I do think that the Nuggets win. I don't like the odds on the money line, but I do like the minus 115 on the spread. Obviously, it's not, perfectly equal. It should be minus 110, minus 110, but I'm willing to take it because I do think the Nuggets win, and I do think if the Nuggets win, it will be by at least 5 points. You see most NBA games decided by a margin of more than 5 points. The over-under is set at 225.5 points in this game. Over locked in at minus 113. The under is locked in at minus 109. I am not actually betting on the over and the under. I take the over in a parlay that I will discuss right after this. But I'm not taking this. If I had to guess, I guess I would bet on the over. The Nuggets are averaging 115.5 points per game. The Bulls are averaging 114.7, so it bodes well. Both teams have fairly good offenses. The Nuggets rank at number 4 in points per game. The Bulls rank at number 8. And both teams are, the Nuggets are actually okay on defense. Statistic-wise, in terms of the points they allow, realistically, if you watch a Nuggets game, it's just because the Nuggets play at a pretty slow pace that their opponents don't score that many points. But lo and behold, the Nuggets are pretty bad at defense if you watch a game. The Bulls are even worse at defense. The Nuggets are allowing 111.2 points per game. That puts them at number 11 in the league. The Bulls are allowing 114.8 points per game. That's number 24 in the league. So if you combine either, the team's offenses team offensive scores per game, you're going to be over that mark pretty easily of 225.5. And if you take the defenses and you aggregate their scores, you're still locked in at a, higher than 225.5. So I would guess the over. One thing that would, kind of make me hesitant to bet the over, however, is that the Nuggets have only hit this mark of 225.5 points in 1 out of their last 5 games. Again, that mark of 225.5 points, that is their score combined with their opponent's score. That has only been hit 1 out of the last 5 games for the Nuggets. As for the Bulls, that number has been hit 2 out of the last 5 times. So if you combine both of those, you're looking at 3 out of the last 10 games for both teams have reached this mark of 225.5 combined points. So that would, that number alone would make you rethink betting the over, but I still do think that the over hits. Let's discuss some parlays. The only parlay that I'm willing to take in this game is the over combined with the spread. I would bet on the Nuggets, period, except for I do think that if the Nuggets win, the betting on the money line versus the spread in a parlay is usually safer, but I like the odds here better considering the fact that I do think the Nuggets do win by 5 points. So I'm taking the Nuggets with the over locked in at plus 250. Again, that's the Nuggets against the spread. That's the only parlay I'm willing to take. I'm not going to bet on either team to hit a certain mark. If I were to, I would say take the over on the Nuggets at 115.5 points, but I'm not betting on that. I'm not quite comfortable with the odds of minus 107. I would like better than that. In terms of the three-way money line, this one I am always willing to bet on. I put $15 down rather than my usual $5 because the odds are so bad, and I do think it'll absolutely happen. And that is I bet $15 on the Nuggets to win without overtime at minus 165. Those have been the popular bets. Let's dive into individual player props, starting with Jamal Murray on the Nuggets. He's set at 2.5 3-pointers in this game. The over is locked in at minus 152. The under is set at plus 125. I know the value on the over is pretty bad, but I am taking the over, and this is one that I couldn't pass up on because I'm too confident in it. He's made 2.7 3-pointers on the season, 3.5 over the last 30 days, 4.7 3-pointers over the last week, and he had 4 in the last game. So Jamal Murray has been absolutely tearing it up from 3-point range. All over the season, if you take his season aggregate numbers, he's above this mark of 2.5. But then if you look at the last 30 days and after that, he's absolutely tearing it up. He's only trending up at minus 152. It's not bad enough value that I want to get away from it. I'm also taking the over in points. He's set at 24.5 points in this game. The over is locked in at minus 114. On the season, he's averaging 21.6. Over the last 30 days, though, he's averaging 25.1, and that's still only been trending up. Over the last week, he averages 28, and in the last game, he had 26. So he's been absolutely tearing it up. The Bulls are a bad defensive team. I think Jamal Murray is looking for his stroke after starting the season off kind of sluggish. So I am betting on Jamal Murray in the over 4 points. I'm also taking the over on Jamal Murray for assists. He's locked in at 4.5 assists in this game. I'm taking the over at minus 136. On the season, he's getting 4.6. Just like his other numbers, it's trending up. He's averaging 4.6 on the season, 4.9 over the last 30 days, 6.3 over the last week, and he had 5 in the last game. I'm taking the over at minus 136 because all of those numbers are well above that mark of 4.5. In terms of rebounds, he's set at 4.5 rebounds in this game. This one, I'm willing to take the under, and I do truly think it's kind of 50-50 whether or not he hits the over with the under, but you're getting way better value attached to the under than the over. I'm taking the under at plus 100 that he gets less than 4.5 rebounds. On the season, he's averaging 4.4. It trended up over the last 30 days. He's averaging 4.8 over the last 30 days, but then over the last week, he's only getting 4.3, and in the last game, he only had 2. So it makes absolute sense that he could get less than 4.5 rebounds in this game, and with the odds of plus 100, I am willing to take it. Now, Nikola Jokic, even though he is a stat machine, there are only two bets that I'm really comfortable with taking here, and one of them is the over on assists. He's averaging 8.5 assists on the season, 8.2 over the last 30 days, 8.3 over the last week, and he had 13 in the last game. Why did he have 13 in the last game? Because the Nuggets absolutely rolled the Thunder. When the Nuggets have, a matchup that Nikola Jokic doesn't need to score 40 plus points in, he likes to defer, the shots to his teammates. He likes to be more of a playmaker and a facilitator than he does to be a shot taker. That doesn't mean he's not excellent at both, but this is a game that the Nuggets absolutely can win. Even though they're banged up, I'm a little bit scared of the Bulls just because they are better this year than they have been in years past. But I'm not so scared that I don't think that the Nuggets win. And they look, to be absolutely rolling. They look to be firing on all cylinders after their game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That typically means a lower scoring night for Jokic and a higher assist night. So he's set to get more than 7.5 assists. It's true pick'em fashion. Minus 110 for the over, minus 110 for the under. Considering the over is the exact same as the under, I had to take the over. I am taking the under on Nikola Jokic rebounds, however, and that is because he is set at such an egregious number here at 11.5. On the season, he's averaging 10.9. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 9.9. Over the last 7 days, he's averaging 9, and in the last game, he only had 11. So all of those marks are under this mark of 11.5. The value is not great at minus 132, but the 11.5 rebounds mark is too egregious that I couldn't not take the under. On to Will Barton, Will the Thrill. He was out a few weeks ago with a personal issue. He has come back and has shown to be a little bit rusty. He's not shooting the ball very well. He had 15 points in the last game, but over the last week, he's only averaging 8.7 points per game. That means in the other two games, he only had 11 points combined. So he is, struggling a little bit despite how much points he put up last game. He's set at 1.5 threes in this game. The under is locked in at minus 117. That is what I am taking. On the season, he's only averaging 1.5, but over the last 30 days, he's averaging 1.7. So he was trending up for a little bit before he took his, leave of absence. And then since then, he has been struggling. Over the last week, he's only averaging 0.3 3-pointers per game, and he had one in the last game. That means over the last week, last game was the only 3-pointer that he hit in all three of those games. I'm taking the over on his assists, however. That has been looking good. He's averaging 3.1 on the season, 3.5 over the last 30 days, 2.7 over the last week, and he had 5 in the last game. You're getting good. You're not getting terrible value with the over at minus 136. That I wouldn't necessarily stray away from that. I'm also willing to take the over on Will Barton rebounds. He's set at 3.5 in this game. The over's locked in at minus 152. So it is pretty low risk, low reward, and it is really low risk reward with this mark of minus 152. But I'm still putting $5 down on it for the reason of he's averaging 3.8 on the season, 3.5 over the last 30 days, 5.7 over the last week, and he had 6 in the last game. So while his shot hasn't been falling, he has been stepping it up in the rebound categories. He's he's a hustler, and he wants to contribute in any way that he can, and as of late it has been rebounds. I'm willing to take the over of 3.5. On to Michael Porter Jr. Yeah, Mike. He's set at 2.5 3-pointers in this game, and let me tell you, I love the value on the over of plus 122. He's making 2.3 on the season, 1.9 over the last 30 days. So both of those marks are below this mark of 2.5, but it seems like he's finally fitting into his role with the Denver Nuggets. Starting at power forward might be helping that. And, the numbers only show that. He's getting 3.3 3-pointers over the last week, and he had 5 in the last game. Considering the value is plus 122 on the over, and I think he's going to hit the over due to his last week's performance, I am absolutely putting money on that. I'm also betting that he hits the over on points. I'm basically betting that he makes at least 3 3-pointers, so it makes sense that he scores at least 15.5 points. Which is what he's set at in this game. Minus 104 for the over. He's making 14.3 on the season, 12.4 over the last 10 days. So those marks are below, but like I said with the three-pointers, you can scratch that and look at the last week for gauging how Porter Jr. will perform in this game. He's making 16.7 points, or he's scoring 16.7 points over the last week, and he had 20 in the last game. I'm willing to take the over at minus 104. I'm also taking the over on rebounds. He has secured 2 double-doubles in the last 2 games. That means he has had at least 10 rebounds in the last 2 games, and you're getting positive value attached to the over on rebounds of 8.5 at plus 110. Again, he had 10 in the last game. He's averaging 10 on the week. I'm taking the over on Michael Porter Jr. Rebounds at 8.5. The over's locked in at plus 110. I'm also taking the over on Michael Porter Jr. combined points, assists, and rebounds. Even though he's not much of an assist guy, I do think he handily gets over 15.5 points. I think he handily gets over 8.5 rebounds. So it would make sense for me to take the over of 24.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds, locked in at minus 110. The last nugget we are going to discuss today is Monte Morris. He's locked in at 11.5 points in this game. The under is set at minus 106, and I am taking the under. Despite the fact that he's getting more minutes as of late, he hasn't necessarily translated that into more scoring. He's averaging 10.8 points on the season, and he's averaging 10.4 points over the last 30 days. He's averaging 11 points over the last week, and in the last game he had 13 points, but that was such a rout that, he was more comfortable doing the scoring, but in a game that's, remotely closer, he would defer more of those shots to his teammates. So I am willing to take the under of 11.5 points at minus 106. I'm also willing to take the under on his rebounds of 2.5, and I know that's crazy to bet that a starter secures less than 3 rebounds in any NBA game, but if you look at Monte Morris's numbers, the more minutes he's played has also not translated to more rebounds, similarly to the amount of points that he's scoring since he's been thrust into the starting spot. He's averaging 2.3 rebounds over the season, 2.3 over the last 30 days, 2.3 over the last week, and 0 in the last game. So he's pretty stagnant at 2.33 rebounds, considering the fact that that number is below this mark of 2.5, and you're getting better value with the under of plus 118. I'm willing to take the under. I'm willing to take the under for Monte Morris rebounds at plus 108 and 18. Because I'm taking the under on his points, I'm taking the under on his rebounds, I'm taking the under on his combined points, assists, and rebounds, that he gets less than 18.5 of those, minus 110 for the under. I'm willing to take that. Now let's discuss the Bulls side of the ball. They have 5 starters that we are able to talk about, starting with Coby White. Sophomore season, he was really good at the end of last season. He's been quietly good this season. It's because he's not such a menace defensively, but he gets it done offensively. I will say, however, I think it's a little bit of a poor experiment having him, start at point guard. I think he's more of a scoring guard than a facilitator, despite the fact that he's averaging 5.2 assists on the season, which is fairly good. He has a lot of turnovers on the season, and I think that he's more, natural in that scoring spot than that facilitating spot. I think that's kind of a blemish from, the Chicago Bulls coaching staff, that they don't let Levine be the main facilitator, and they still have Coby White take the ball up the court more often than not. That said, he's still been having a good season numbers-wise, and we're taking the over on a lot of his different stats. The one stat we're taking the under on is his three-pointers. We're taking the under that he gets less than 2.5 three-pointers, locked in at minus 125. He's averaging 2.3 on the season, 2.4 over the last 30 days. That's trending down. He's averaging 1.7 over the last week, and 1 in the last game. Minus 125 is not bad enough value for me to stray away from that. Now, points, I am taking the over. 16.5 points. The over's locked in at minus 104. I'm taking the over. He's averaging 15.8 on the season, but that's been trending up. He's at this mark of 16.5 over the last month, and again, that's still been trending up. He's had 21 over the past week and 19 in the last game. I'm willing to take the over on him, especially considering the fact that he is likely to be matched up against Monte Morris. It's not that Monte Morris is bad at defense, but he is nothing stellar, and with the way that Coby White has been stepping it up as of late, I'm expecting him to get at least 17 points. In terms of assists, I'm taking the over as well at 4.5 assists. Like I said, they really foisted him into that playmaking role that he doesn't seem so comfortable with. He does commit a lot of turnovers, but with all of his turnovers, he has been getting a decent amount of assists, as I recently alluded to. He's set at 4.5 assists in this game. The over has great value of plus 122. On the season, he's getting 5.2 assists. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 4.6. In the last week, he has 4, and in the last game, he has 4. So I do think that he gets above this mark of 4.5, and if he doesn't, I bet he's teetering right around that mark of 4 to 5, assists in this game. The over's at plus 122, so it's absolutely worth taking. I'm also taking the over on his rebounds at 4.5 for plus 108. On the season, he's averaging 5. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 5.1. Over the last week, he's averaging 7.7, and in the last game, he had 5. So all the numbers point to him getting over 4.5 rebounds, and you're getting better value with the over at plus 108 versus minus 132 for the under. That's another bet that I'm absolutely taking. Considering that I'm taking the over on his rebounds, points, and assists, I'm taking the over on Kobe White to get more than 24.5 combined points, assists, and rebounds at minus 115. Now, on to the superstar for the Chicago Bulls. His name is Zach Levine. I'm only taking 2 bets for him, and they're both the unders, actually, and that's assists and rebounds. I'm betting that he gets less than 4.5 assists and less than 4.5 rebounds. The assists under is locked in at plus 115, and the rebounds under is locked in at plus 118. The reason I'm taking the under for both of those is if one of those hits, I am still up money, and I do think, the numbers point to the fact that he would get the under on at least one of those. Let me explain why. Yes, he's averaging 5 assists on the season, 5.2 rebounds, but those are both trending down, and especially over the last week. Over the last 30 days, however, he's averaging 4.7 assists, 5.1 rebounds. So you're starting to see those numbers trend down, and then they drop off a cliff when you look at the last week. He's averaging 4 assists over the last week and 2.7 rebounds. He had 4 assists in the last game and 1 rebound in the last game. So based on the template that has been provided to us over the past week, based on the trends, I would guess that both of these hit the under, and considering the fact that you're getting better value attached to the under, and I do think at least one of them is absolutely bound to hit, I'm taking the 2 of them on the under. On to Patrick Williams, small forward for the Chicago Bulls. I'm taking the under on his points at 10.5, locked in at plus 102, and the numbers support this decision. He's averaging 10 over the season, 10.6 over the last 30 days, 10.3 over the last week, and he only had 4 in the last game. So he's been trending down from the 30-day mark of 10.6. I do think it's, closer to 50-50. I do think it's, a little bit leaning towards the side of the under, that he gets at least, 10.5 points in this game, but I like the value on the under of plus 102, so I did not pass up on that. I am, however, taking the over on Patrick Williams' rebounds. He's averaging 4.9 on the season, 5.8 over the last 30 days, 6 over the last week, and 7 in the last game. So he's been trending up significantly in the rebound category, and he's only set at 5.5 in this game with the over locked in at plus 122. I could not pass that value up. Now on to Garrett Temple. They put him, he truly plays a forward position for this team, even though he is, truly a shooting guard. He's just a tall guard, so they list him as forward on the team. He's set at 8.5 points in this game, and I am taking the under. He's averaging 8.8 on the season, but that is trending down. He's averaging 7.9 over the last 30 days, 6.3 over the last week, and 5 in the last game. The value is, equal on the over and the under, minus 110 for the over, minus 110 for the under. Considering the fact that the value is the same and I expect him to hit the under, I am taking the under for Garrett Temple points in this game. That is the only bet that I have pertaining to Garrett Temple. Now on to their center. He is only 6'9" in height, but he is 7'6" in wingspan. He, has the perfect forward/center body for the NBA. He actually explicitly said last year he wants to play more forward. Him and Lauri Markkanen both wanted to play forward. Neither of them wanted to play center. Now that Markkanen is hurt, he's kind of foisted into that center role, and he doesn't necessarily love that, but he does have the wingspan to compete with other centers, despite the fact that he appears to be undersized at 6'9". I'm talking about Wendell Carter Jr. He's averaging 0.3 three-pointers on the season, 0.3 over the last 30 days, 0.3 over the last week, and 0 in the last game. That means essentially he's hitting 1 three-pointer out of every 3 games. So I would bet the over on three-pointers if it is over plus 200. And guess what? It is. He's locked in at plus 225. If I took to get at least 1 three-pointer in this game, to get more than 0.5 three-pointers, if I were to take this every game on the season for Wendell Carter Jr., I would be up big money because the value is technically perfectly there as long as it's above plus 200, which it is. It's at plus 225. Even though I don't expect him to get a three-pointer in this game, I couldn't pass up that value. The math suggests to take the over every time it is above plus 200. I'm taking the under on his rebounds, however. On the season, he's averaging 7.7. On the season, he's averaging 7.7. Over the last 30 days, he's averaging 7. Over the last week, he's averaging 9.3, but he only had 5 in the last game. I'm taking the under because the value's there at plus 102, considering the fact that he had 5 in the last game. Nikola Jokic is a boxing out machine. He's a rebound machine. He gets so many offensive boards and then, cleans them up. I think Wendell Carter Jr. is going to struggle. We saw that template when he really struggled against DeAndre Ayton, and he only had those 5 boards, so I do think he gets under, and I like the value at plus 102. I'm also taking the under on his combined points, assists, and rebounds at 22.5. On the season, he's averaging 22.6, but that is trending down. He's averaging 20.3 combined points, assists, and rebounds over the last 30 days, 22.3 over the last week, and he only had 9 in the last game because, like I said earlier, he got absolutely sunned by DeAndre Ayton of the Suns. Now, I do expect him to get, Serbian uncled by Nikola Jokic. I think that Nikola Jokic will absolutely dominate him in all facets of the game, and I don't expect, Wendell Carter Jr. to be able to put up big numbers against the Serbian madman that is the Joker. Now, for double-doubles, and triple-doubles, there are 2 double-double bets that I am taking. I put $15 down on Nikola Jokic to secure a double-double at minus 295. Let me tell you the numbers that support that. He's getting 29 double-doubles in 33 games total this season. That means he's getting a double-double in approximately 88% of the games, so it's absolutely worth it at minus 295. I have $15 down on that. I also have $5 down on Michael Porter Jr. to get a double-double at plus 200. Why? I don't think he gets a double-double in this game, but at plus 200, I couldn't pass it up considering the fact that he's gotten a double-double in 2 out of the last 2 games. He's averaging a double-double on the week. So if Michael Porter Jr. is able to resume the dominance that he's been putting up as of late, then I am due to make a lot of money off of Michael Porter Jr. Now, on to our tip-off analysis. Even though Wendell Carter Jr., like I said, he has that 7'6" wingspan, or 7'5" wingspan, that is 2 inches longer than Nikola Jokic. I do think Nikola Jokic wins this tip-off, and I don't think it's close. Nikola Jokic has won 4 out of his last 5 tip-offs. Wendell Carter Jr., however, has lost 4 out of his last 5 tip-offs. The only win came against Daniel House, who is the most undersized center in the league, if you even want to call him a center. So, despite the fact that Nikola Jokic has a shorter wingspan, he uses his vet timing to secure so many of these tip-offs. On the season, we are 18 of 23 in podcasts that we've recorded. That means we are hitting these tip-off predictions at a 78.3% clip. And let's, only boost that. Nikola Jokic is going to win this tip-off. That means I'm betting on the Nuggets to score first. They're going to have the first possession. They're a more efficient scoring team. I absolutely think the Nuggets score first in this game, or at least they will have every opportunity to. The Nuggets are set at minus 150, which is about as steep as we've seen it in any game this season. But we are still willing to take it because I am so confident that Nikola Jokic wins the tip. Again, that gives the Nuggets every advantage to score first. At minus 150, I have $15 down on that. That is going to wrap it up for the show today. I tried to be a little bit quicker, a little bit more concise, make the show a little bit shorter, and I hope that that is appreciated by all of you. I apologize for the very late show today, but I was very busy with schoolwork, and there are a lot of other things floating around. During the summer, when there is no school, expect the show to be so consistent it almost hurts. You gotta listen to it always. And once again, I thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tell all of your friends about it, only if they're interested in winning money, which I hope that they are. Otherwise, you need to pick smarter friends. Once again, thank you. We'll see you all next time.